If you were born before the year 2000, and my analytics tell me that most of you are, you'll remember Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Ty Pennington's frosted tips and soul patch dramatically shouting, the big reveal, confetti, happy music. Then you venture inside and God forbid you mention anything about your personality to the producers, because if you so much as saw a horse at any point in your life and mentioned it to the team, your bed would be shaped like a horse, there would be hay strewn about the floor, literally anything but the stable itself. That was the big TV moment, and happily ever after. But the real story, when the cameras left, is darker. Frankly, it sucked, bro, so we're going to talk about it. Here we go.
The past is sacred. I found more than I expected.
Extreme Makeover Home Edition aired on ABC from 2003 through to 2012, building dream homes in 5 days flat. Ty Pennington, the star carpenter who looks like the lead singer of every 90s band, led crews in a frenzy of demolition, construction, and going over budget. They'd take a modest house owned by families suffering from illness, death, disability, or tragedy, and replace it with something straight out of a Dr. Seuss book. It looked beautiful and it felt inspiring, but many of the Who's down in Whoville couldn't pay to live in what became an expensive monster of a house. In the case of the Varden family in 2004, Larry and Judy Varden, both deaf, lived with a child who was both blind and autistic. So just the biggest winners of the unfortunate life lottery. Their house was a modest 3-bedroom cottage, but after the renovation, the property taxes rose about $1,000 annually. Larry's welding job at Chrysler was shaky due to layoffs, and within months they were struggling to refinance when rates hit 11%, and the new home became less of a blessing and more of a burden. They were warned about higher taxes, but no one warned them about foreclosure risk. The family ended up working with a non-profit to negotiate a lower mortgage, and Today.com reported they received a renegotiated mortgage just to be able to stay in their home. By 2020, at least 9 families from the original run had either foreclosed or sold on their homes under duress due to skyrocketing taxes, utilities, insurance, and failed finances, because of course they did. The poor and impoverished and destitute families don't have the backup funds to maintain these ridiculous houses. Are you shocked by this news? Ty, with your soul patch? These renovate and run shows added amenities like pools, home theaters, solariums, extra bedrooms, and raised assessed values by hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We're broke.
Brian Waford from California was a widowed father of 8 kids. Pre-renovated house, 1,200 square feet, assessed to be about $246,000. After the makeover, 4,300 square feet, home theater, extra rooms, new assessed value soared to $572,000, raising the property tax from $2,700 to $6,000 per year. He was absolutely blindsided. He did not receive a paid-off mortgage. He was on the hook for refinancing, mortgage interest, insurance rates, utilities, and much more. He spent years trying to modify the loan. Electricity, water, heating bills all skyrocketed. He never owed ABC, but banks came knocking, and he took out an ill-advised $450,000 loan at the start of 2010, owed $770,000 total on the property, and eventually had to leave the house.
Get out of here!
Not just the house value, but overall embellishments were installed in people's houses without any real conversation with the family. One family received an indoor pirate-themed house featuring a giant wooden pirate ship indoors. Weirdly, the theme park level nonsense doesn't stop there. Some families came home to a backyard roller coaster, an indoor aquarium tunnel, a room that looked to be made out of candy, a medieval castle-themed home, jungle treehouse bedroom, look, I'll be real, this one actually kind of rips, racetrack flooring, rock climbing wall in the living room, indoor baseball batting cage, and a life-size dollhouse room. I know the parents out there, regardless of how much you love your kids, will be ready to throw hands if Ty put a rock climbing wall in your lounge. I am one of them. The Ockvath family in 2005 featured 9-year-old Cassandra, who nominated her pediatric hospital for a makeover, and then her family house was demolished and rebuilt as a full-blown mansion. The first electric bill, $2,200. Annual property taxes soared from about $2,000 once again up to around $7,500 in just 1 year. Insurance costs added another couple of $100 a month. They took out hundreds of thousands in loans to stay afloat, and during the 2008 housing crash, they were forced to sell the house at a loss, reportedly only walking away with $8,000 in equity.
Oh my God!
The episode that featured Eric Herbert from Sandpoint, Idaho, aired in 2006. After his sister died in 2004, Eric adopted her twins. He was essentially homeless. Extreme Makeover Home Edition built him a mountain-style lodge home in early 2006 thanks to Tyson Foods, who also threw in a $50,000 check. But the utility bills then tripled, property taxes doubled, and when Eric lost his construction job, within 3 years, they defaulted on the house and the bank foreclosed. At first, public foreclosure happened around 2009 to 2010. He'd taken out equity lines to pay bills, they lost everything, and ABC washed their hands of the family completely.
That's it?
Participants assumed mortgage payoff was part of the package, which, to be fair, seems understandable, and it was not.
We didn't ask that they completely remodel our house and give us this huge mansion.
It was an expensive house. Our first electric bill was like $2,200, which was way more than our mortgage ever was, and I about died.
So many people had to refinance, take out home equity lines, or juggle high interest loans, which is why you always read the fine print. No counseling about maintenance, tax planning, budgeting like they do when you win the lottery, which is essentially what this is. The Nicholas family story revolves around Tim Nicholas, who died of hepatitis C in 2008. The show built a huge home for widow Arlene and her kids, but property taxes tripled, utilities ballooned. Arlene defaulted in September of 2016 and the house went to foreclosure sale, which sold for about $113,000 after a 6-month redemption period. If none of this makes sense so far, share this video with your parents and they will chew your ear off for hours about how house prices are ridiculous and how interest rates are awful. Like American Idol, Dr. Phil, and most American TV casting, Extreme Makeover Home Edition prioritized backstories, rare diseases, tragic deaths. Internal casting emails even requested conditions like muscular dystrophy child, or Down syndrome family, or extremely rare disorders for emotional impact be moved to the top of the pile. Most of these families already had huge costs to uphold already. And Ty Pennington wouldn't swing the hammer himself. Real contractors did the work. He staged shots for the edits, where he would hammer a nail and wipe his brow, and during one build, carpentry foreman Ed Sanders lost part of his hand in a terrible table saw accident, a reminder that building houses in a week is just not safe. In the case of the Higgins siblings, 5 orphan teens lost both their parents within weeks. They were taken in by neighbors, the Leo Mitty family, and Extreme Makeover Home Edition built a 9-bedroom house for them to live in together. On camera, it was dreamlike. Off camera, the siblings' alleged emotional and racial abuse from their host family had the kids moving out within months, living scattered amongst friends. They sued ABC and the Leo Mittys for emotional distress and breach of contract. They lost in court and settled outside for around $50,000.
Dang.
Producers later defended Extreme Makeover, saying we couldn't control every outcome, and the viewers shouldn't blame the show for post-show problems. The internal memo leak in 2016 exposed the exploitative tone behind casting, but they defended themselves, insisting that it was to, quote, tell diverse stories. They claimed positive intent, but positive intent doesn't pay taxes. Tax assessments rose from a few thousand a year to $6,000 to $7,500 annually. Insurance and utilities could cost anywhere from $200 to $400 extra per month, which works out to be thousands yearly. Home equity lines or loans to cover taxes and maintenance left families indebted. In some cases, entire families and marriages collapsed under this financial strain. All without support from the show, no escrow tax account, no stipend for bills, just the keys and a targeting spotlight with a firm handshake and a best of luck. I was actually unaware of this until I started doing research for this video, but they actually brought it back last year. I don't watch cable TV either, I stream everything like everybody else, but with the show's return in January of 2025, the new version has been forced to include a lump sum of money to cover taxes and upkeep. They bring the Home Edition team to teach organizational and sustainable living. They stab at doing affordable/practical designs, and yes, Move That Bus remains the anthem, but this time ideally with some actual planning behind it. Can't be blamed for thinking Extreme Makeover Home Edition was a tearjerker TV miracle. Unfortunately, it turns out that miracle often carried a huge hidden price tag, a house you couldn't afford, emotional damage that went unaddressed, and relationships that didn't heal. It wasn't a curb appeal that killed these families, it was the financial reality after the cameras shut off. Extreme Makeover gave people lemons, but instead of making lemonade, they served a huge cup of cement and told them to harden up. If some frosted tips and a soul patch turns up to your front door, maybe get some checkups on your credit score next time they want to fix your home. Because a luxury McMansion might just be a loaded trap dressed up like McHappily Ever After. Ladies and gentlemen, new videos every fortnight. If you want more breakdowns of shows, let me know. I've been looking at a lot more stuff like that, or if you're still keen on my history deep dives, also let me know. You can follow me everywhere. I'm going to start making some more content soon on other platforms. It's BB_Malloy or BB Malloy, whatever. I'd like to take this moment to shout out to my good people on Patreon, and to all the new free members as well. You guys appeared out of nowhere. So please give yourselves a round of applause for sticking around to the end of this video. Peace and have a good day.
The past is sacred. I found more than I expected.